So earlier we were talking about this notion of whether or not there should be a flight ban into the United States. And I mentioned, or I should say, flight ban sequestration, I guess, into the United States from the West African nations that are dealing with Ebola. My sense is that because the experts in this sort of thing say that it would be ineffective and possibly more problematic, that we shouldn't do it. I know that is a controversial position in today's society because why would you listen to experts in the field? Their reasons range from you need to stop Ebola from its source, and if you halted commercial airlines from going in there, you would make it virtually or much harder for NGOs and for aid workers to get in, because then you'd have to start doing charters, and that's far more expensive, prohibitively expensive for a lot of these NGOs. Another reason is that in this instance, we can now track people. Even if they lie about their situation, we now know who's on those flights with them, right? Because we're paying attention to those flights. Whereas if these people are willing to lie, then they're probably also willing to exit their countries through their very porous borders and would then make it to the United States, except for we wouldn't know how they got here. On and on. So, of course, the Republicans, and we will talk about this in a moment, the Republicans are using this rather than to deal with sort of some legitimate public policy issues. They are trying to make some partisan hay out of this because there is some evidence that this will help them in the elections. But the problem is they're also really stupid sometimes. Thus, bringing us to Representative Marsha Blackburn, who doesn't seem to get the idea as to why you wouldn't do a ban, but she hears something that makes her think that she knows what she's talking about. What's beautiful about this clip is the combination between Marsha Blackburn's total ineptitude and Marsha Blackburn's complete certainty that she's not inept. Play this clip. Here she is interviewing, or I should say, questioning CDC Director Thomas Frieden.
For 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Frieden, I want to be sure I heard you right. You just said to Chairman Upton that we cannot have flight restrictions because of a porous border. So do we need to worry about having an unsecure southern and northern border? Is that a big part of this problem?
I was referring to the border of the three countries in Africa.
You're referring
Liberia,
to that border, not our porous
Guinea,
border.
and Sierra Leone.
Mr. Wagner, would it help you all, the Border Patrol, if we secured the southern border and eliminated illegal entry?
Well, travelers coming across the southern border like the northern border, we're going to, query their information in our databases. We're going to ask them their travel history, where they're coming from, how they arrived in the country they're coming from.
Yes or no was sufficient. I need to move on.
So she just hears the word border, assumes that it has to do with our border. I mean, this is a question. She starts off by saying, when we were talking about the flight bans. Well, we are talking about flight bans. How do you tie that in to the notion of people driving or walking across our porous borders in the north and the south?
Excuse me, y'all. I have several stupid questions and a limited amount of time, so I would deal with a nice, simple answer to my mind-blowingly stupid question. Thank you.
Well, you know what? Okay. That's a little too there's too much due deference there in that too.
I mean, literally, what almost had to have happened is she just tuned out until she heard the word border.
No. But I said yes or no. Yes or no?
No.
Excuse me, Mr. Frieden. Africa is or is not a country. Am I wrong?
Excuse me, Dr. Frieden. Did you not say West African nations? Okay, now, did you not use two words to describe those areas, that geographic area? Yes or no? Okay, now, do we not always use also two words to describe, let's say, Latin America? Okay, I rest my case.
So you were talking about the West African nation of Guatemala. And is it not true that there are children from that region who are crossing the border illegally with Ebola and attempting to convert us to Islam? And again, a yes or no will do nicely. Congresswoman, again, yes or no, please.
I'm not
8-year-olds trying to give us Ebola and convert us to Islam.
I must hurry and get your answer so I can send out my email blast.
We're clipping this on YouTube, and the fools back in my district are looking at it. So, frankly, it really don't matter whether or not what I just said is completely nonsensical and whether or not you debunk me. That's really not the point of the exercise,
In fact,
gentlemen.
I'm going to ask you a yes or no question that is impossible for you to answer yes or no. I'm going to see your question. I'm going to be indignant. Then this will be clipped, and I will send it in my email blast, and I will make probably upwards around 6 figures in quick donations because of your intransigence.
I might also even get a Steve Malsberg clip out of it. He's that nice. Well, is he a Jewish fella? He's up there in New York, and they got a Newsmax show, and I just love going on his program, as well as the larger ones. After this is all over, I'm going to be a pharma lobbyist to make more than all of you ever even have seen in your lives.
That's right.
So anyways, on to my next question. Should we close our little northern Liberian border? It's a serious question.